whether the team is performing clean or unsightly. We'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, Washington drops to 2-5 on the season after a 24-10 defeat at the hands of Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Washington now losers of 3 straight after getting back to 500 on the season at 2-2. They've lost to New Orleans, Kansas City, and Green Bay in respective weeks. So, talked about the hard part of the schedule, or the toughest, I should say, part of the schedule being done and meeting its conclusion with this Packers game. Now, there's a lot of positivity to look forward to, potentially, depends on how things go. But I think yesterday's game against the Packers, if that's any indication of where this team is heading, I'd say we are going to be in for quite the finish to the season. Again, a lot of different variables that will impact the remainder of this season. But yesterday was a very positive showing, and a lot of you don't seem to see it that way, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, you can't sit there and tell me that yesterday's game, despite it being a 24-10 loss and only scoring 10 points, not having punter Tressway see the field not a single time yesterday because the offense was so efficient, and having Taylor Heinicke play his brand of football, which I said, if he does, he gives us a chance, and he gave us a chance yesterday. The reason we didn't give up 30 points, and even though I'm encouraged by the defense, I think the reason we didn't give up 30-plus points is because they weren't on the field a ton yesterday. Why? Because the offense was actually really good on Sunday. So there are a lot of things that I felt like were positives to take away from the game, and we'll touch upon those as we go through today's episode. But let's get to the keys to the game from Sunday, what we needed to do to try to get a victory, and see how we did in those respective departments. So let's start on the offensive side of the football. Washington's offense versus Green Bay's defense. And the first key to the game was attack, attack, attack. They have no Jair Alexander, who is their best corner. No Preston Smith. No Zadarius Smith. Neither of the Smith bros played in the game. You needed to take advantage of all of that. I still thought that we allowed Rashawn Gary, who he's not garbage, but he's not a stud. I think we allowed him to make too many plays, including forcing the fumble that allowed Green Bay to extend the lead out to 21-7, kicking off the second half essentially after the Heinicke fumble. But that said, I gave us a point for that because I thought we attacked. Again, we didn't punt the entire day. That has to mean something. Again, we had over 400 yards of total offense. Again, that doesn't mean anything because if you don't put points on the scoreboard, no one cares. You could have 600 yards of total offense. If you only have, 10 points, who cares? I mean, I remember us playing against Tampa Bay one year with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback, as a matter of fact. I want to say it was that 2018 season with Alex Smith. And we go to Tampa. They rack up all kinds of yards, move the football with ease, but they get in the red zone and they're turning over. They're missing field goals. And they only scored 3 points. And I think they had over 500 yards of total offense, only had 3 points in the game. So who cares about how many yards you have if you're not scoring points? But it shows that you're capable of moving the football, and that's what we were able to do in this ball game. We attacked them, and we did it with some explosive plays. Speaking of which, that's the next key to the game offensively, explosive plays. I said I don't care how they come, whether it's pass interference, a deep ball, a long run, et cetera, screenplay. I don't really care how they come, catch and run. We just needed explosive plays, and we had several in this game. We had the Terry 40-yard touchdown on the opening drive. It was really a breath of fresh air and a sight for sore eyes to see an opening drive touchdown by this football team to match Green Bay's opening drive touchdown. So, that was great to see. Obviously, you had Taylor Heinicke had a big run of 34 yards in this game. And then you also had a DeAndre Carter 27-yard run. There were explosive plays, and then there were a bunch of, 17s and 15s and 12s, chunk plays in there from this team. So I thought it was a really good effort offensively. We mixed in some explosive plays, which have been missing from this offense. You'd like to see more of them, but just to see a few of them is good because we haven't had enough of them to start this season off. So had some explosive plays in there. The Terry touchdown again, the Taylor Heineke run, the Antonio or DeAndre Carter run for 27 yards, even though he fumbled at the end of that. Great hustle by Taylor Heineke to recover that fumble. I just thought the explosive plays were definitely there, and so we got a +1 there as well. The next key to the game was the reason we didn't win the game, and can't settle for field goals. Red zone efficiency. So we went 0 of 4, a big donut in the red zone. And it's not just 0 of 4 in the red zone. It's literally because red zone efficiency, for those of you who don't know how this stat works, is every time you get in the 20, from the 20 in, it's a red zone trip. Doesn't matter if you don't make it into the red zone or the 20-yard line until third down and 8. You get 2 yards. The first set of downs started at the 22-yard line. You get 2 yards on 2nd and 10, and it's 3rd and 8 from the 20. That's a red zone trip now. You made it into the red zone. And so sometimes the red zone stat can be misleading, but anytime you don't score a touchdown, that is considered a red zone miss, okay? So if you make 4 trips into the red zone, let's say one of your drives ended at the 20, one of your drives ended at the 11, one of your drives ended at the 17. So a play has to be run from that yard line or inside the 20 or 20 or in. And let's say another drive ends at the 4, right? That's 4 red zone trips. If you don't score a touchdown on any of those trips, then that's considered a miss. So you would be 0 of 4. But let's say all 4 of them resulted in field goals. That's 12 points. So you could go 0 of 4 conceivably in the red zone, but still come away with some points. The thing that made our red zone trips so excruciatingly painful is that we went 0 of 4 and didn't come away with a single point on any of those trips. That's because we were 1 of 4 on 4th down. So we struggled to convert when it mattered most in this ball game. And I talked about the red zone efficiency. A lot of you are wafflers out there. Okay, not a lot of you. Some of you are wafflers out there. The same crowd that last week was chastising Ron for not going for it on a 4th down, but instead opting to kick a field goal that Dustin Hopkins ultimately missed. That same crowd was now saying Ron should have kicked the field goals. What is he doing? The score was 7-7. Well, we were up 13-10 last week when he decided to kick the field goal. You can't have it both ways, okay? We were upset, or I was upset last week that he opted to kick the field goal instead of going for the touchdown. I wanted him to be aggressive. I had no problems with him being aggressive in this game, especially after one of the field goal attempts was blocked. That was one of our red zone trips where the ball, I don't think that thing made it 6 feet off the ground before it got blocked. So I didn't have a problem with Ron deciding to be aggressive because you're playing Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. And you know you got to score points to win. And you're not going to field goal them to death and win a ball game. You're going to have to score touchdowns. I didn't have a problem with him doing. Now, next week when we play Denver, no, I want those field goal attempts. They don't score a lot of points. You got to know who you're playing. You got to know your opposition. He knew that last week he made a mistake. And he may have overcorrected by going for it so many times this week. But I understood the logic. So, we couldn't settle for field goals. The bottom line is you couldn't settle for field goals. Ron opted not to, and we didn't capitalize on opportunities into the red zone. We did not have red zone efficiency, and really this is now a problem 3 weeks in a row. And what's crazy is the first 4 weeks of the season, we were actually super efficient in the red zone. We were one of the better red zone offenses in the league. And now, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the inability to run, because if you look at a lot of our red zone touchdowns in the first 4 weeks, a lot of them were via the ground. When you are able to run the football in the red zone and get touchdowns via the ground, it's going to make your red zone efficiency that much more easy to achieve. When you can't run the football in, and we haven't been able to of late, it puts so much strain on your offense because now you have to throw it. And if you don't have one of those guys, if you don't have an Aaron Rodgers, a Kyler Murray, a Lamar Jackson, someone that either is a threat with their legs or a guy that is a super efficient extend the play guy with his legs and can make it with his arms, like a Josh Allen, you're going to struggle in the red zone because things get really, really tight. Or you got to have a super duper outstanding play caller, and I don't think we have that, not in the red zone at least, in Scott Turner. So we've continued to struggle in the red zone the last 3 weeks, and it's really killed us. You could argue that the reason we haven't won 2 out of the last 3 games, in particular the Saints game and this game, is because of those woes in the red zone. So didn't get any points there, obviously, and didn't get any points in the game in the red zone either. Mistake-free football. Plus, we needed to keep the crowd out of the game, keep the crowd quiet. I thought for the most part we kept the crowd quiet because we were in this ball game. Despite the score, we went into the red zone so many times that you could never really be fully comfortable if you were a Packers fan. But with that said, I still didn't give us any points because we weren't able to keep the crowd quiet enough because we didn't score any points. And we had 2 turnovers in the game. You know, we fumbled 4 times. We only lost 1 of them. And then we had, 2 turnovers in the game, a fumble by Heineke and an interception by Heineke. So I couldn't give us any points on that one, even though a half a point was very, very close to being given because I thought we kept those Lambeau faithful quiet for a lot of the game because we were on offense and we were moving the football. But every time we got into the red zone, they made noise. And I'm not saying that was the reason we didn't execute, but we just didn't execute down there for whatever reason. Finally, the last key to the game offensively was Terry, JD, and +1. So we needed Terry to step up, and I told you he would. JD McKissick to step up. He was okay. He had 8 touches, 4 rushes, 4 catches for roughly about 55, 60 yards, somewhere in that neighborhood. He was okay. He wasn't as big a factor as I would have liked him to be. But the +1 was exceptional because it wasn't just one guy. It was a collective effort. I thought that everyone got involved. DeAndre Carter, as I mentioned, with a 27-yard run. Ricky Seals-Jones with another 6 grabs for like 50-some-odd yards. Adam Humphries had a nice little catch and run. Dax Milne got involved. He had a couple of catches. And if Taylor Heineke brings it down on one of his throws, he's got his first NFL touchdown as well. So it was just good to see everyone getting involved in the action in this football game. I didn't think we put the onus on just Terry to just do everything. I felt like we were able to spread it around, get others involved. Even with De'Ami Brown going down relatively early in this game, we still were able to spread the wealth a bit, even in the run game. Heineke's legs were big. Antonio Gibson didn't have a terrible game, but he did, cough it up multiple times in this game, which is a no-no. And so, getting him involved as well, I just thought it was a really good effort in terms of spreading the football around and using all of the weapons that you have. So I gave us a +1 on that one. I thought we did a really good job. Terry had a good game, 7 catches, 122 yards and a touchdown, including a 40-yarder. And I thought JD was solid. Not as big of an impact as I thought he could have had. But I just thought the +1 was huge because it wasn't just one. It was just about everybody getting involved. So on the offensive side of the football, 3 points, which is pretty good. You usually can win with 3 points on the offensive side, which is how I felt after the game. I mean, the keys to the game kind of tells the story. We were right there. We did everything we needed to do. But the biggest one, and I think I said this during the behind enemy lines when I unveiled these keys, I think I said the biggest of these keys is can't settle for field goals, red zone efficiency. That along with, of course, mistake-free football. You can't turn it over and expect to win. But those 2 things didn't get done. Those were the 2 biggest keys, and those were the 2 that didn't get done, and that's why you find yourself on the wrong side of the scoreboard. Defensively, Washington against Green Bay's offense, first key to the game, be selectively aggressive. I thought we did a tremendous job of this. I thought Jack Del Rio took heed to what Ron Rivera told him, which was we need to blitz more. You saw that especially in the first half of this game. I thought we were more aggressive in the first half of this game than we had been for the first 6 games combined. I mean, I thought we might have blitzed. Again, the blitz stat is very misleading, because if you rush five guys, that's technically a blitz, and we play with a five-man defensive front at times, mutually exclusive in some games where you're just like, okay, we're just rushing five. So I think that number gets somewhat skewed when you're talking about blitzing, because when I think about blitzing, I'm thinking about you got a four-man defensive front or a three-man front, whatever your base package looks like. And then off of that, you've got guys coming from different areas, not just lined up on the defensive line. And, they're all accounted for. The offensive line knows who they have to block. A blitz for me is when guys come and you can't account for them. You don't know where they're coming from necessarily. And so you've got to try to call them out and get the offensive line to understand, or slide protection to adjust. I thought we did a really good job of that early in the game, and I thought that's part of the reason why the score was 7-7 and up until that final possession of the first half for Green Bay, because I thought we did a really good job of mixing and matching coverages. We played a ton of man coverage, and I thought we came after Aaron Rodgers and made him uncomfortable, got good pressure on him, sacked him a couple of times early in the game, really made him work for everything that he got. And I thought we were selectively aggressive, and I like that, and I want to see more of it moving forward. So we got a point there. Tackle was the next key to the game. We were so porous tackling against Kansas City, and you could argue the same could be said against the Saints the week prior to that had to become an issue. Like, you get Ron having to answer questions now about not tackling enough in practice and things of that nature, because it had been a problem lately. It still was a semblance of a problem. It wasn't as big of a deal, but you get tired of a guy catching the ball 2 yards short of the sticks and then dragging two defenders for the additional 2 yards necessary to get the first down. And you get tired of a guy catching a football 4 yards short of the sticks, making a guy miss, slipping another tackle, or dragging a guy and getting the first down. Like, that gets old after a while. I watched so many games on Sundays and Thursdays and Mondays where guys come up, make form tackles, or guys come up, get a piece of the ankle and get guys on the ground, and we just don't seem to be able to do that. That's pretty frustrating. Where the first guy usually comes out there willy-nilly, out of control, and misses that first tackle attempt. We've got to be better tackling, but I didn't think we were terrible in this game. We got a half of point there. Slow down the Adams and Jones show, and that was a big key. Because if those guys went off on us, we weren't going to have a chance defensively. They did that in this game. I mean, Davante Adams, 6 catches, 76 yards, and a touchdown. Doesn't sound like you slowed him down, but we know what Davante Adams is in this league. He's one of the premier wide receivers. His biggest claim to fame in the game, well, he had 2 really good catches. The one down the sideline when they were pinned up against their own end zone to end the third quarter against Kendall Fuller, that was a big play. That was his biggest play of the game. I think that was 26 yards. And then he had, of course, the 4th down and 3 catch and run for the touchdown on the opening possession of the game. Those were his 2 biggest catches. Other than that, he really was silent in this game. And you got to credit the defense for that and taking him away and making Aaron Rodgers go elsewhere with the football. So Aaron Jones had a total of 9 touches for 30-some-odd yards, like 19 yards on 6 carries, which is nothing. He got a nothing burger on the ground. And then he had an additional 3 catches for maybe like 14 yards or so. Like, we really silenced Aaron Jones. He was a non-factor. If I wouldn't have known any better, I would have thought he got injured or something, because he just wasn't a factor in this game. So credit the defense for that, not allowing Aaron Jones to get going and really taking him out of this game. So I thought we were tremendous in the slowing down the Adams and Jones show department. They get a +1 for that. Stay disciplined and stay deep was the next key to the game defensively. Aaron Rodgers was going to hard count. You can't jump off sides. They didn't get us on any hard counts and had us jumping off sides. So that was really good to see, because he's one of the best, if not the best in the league with the hard count. And then stay deep. That had been a problem for us all season long. I don't want to even narrow the focus to the last couple of weeks, even though we've given up some big plays the last couple of weeks. This has been a problem all season long. Blown coverages, blown assignments, miscommunications, guys just getting flat out beat, whatever the case may be. People have been getting behind our defense with regularity this season. It didn't happen in this game. The Packers had the Davante Adams 26-yarder was their longest play of the game. And again, Kendall Fuller was right there. He defended it well. It was just a perfect pass. And he just was a split second too late to turn his head around. But he got it around, saw the ball, just couldn't reach back far enough to knock it away. So that was just a better offense. than the defense. It wasn't terrible coverage. So we really didn't have any defensive mishaps this game, which resulted in an easy walk-in touchdown. The Robert Tonyan touchdown was from 25 yards out. Those were their two biggest plays of the game, the 26-yarder down the sideline to Davante Adams and the 25-yarder to Robert Tonyan with Jamin Davis in man-to-man coverage. And Ron talked about that particular play, and we'll get to that in other news as to what he had to say on Jamin Davis's coverage on that play. So, I thought defensively we were able to do that pretty well. So I gave us a half point because you still did give up a 25 and a 26-yarder, but it wasn't the 30 and the 40 and the 50 that we've been giving up, or the 70 that we've been giving up over the last 3 weeks and really all season long, with guys having opportunity to make big plays. So got a half point there. And then finally, the last key to the game defensively was keep A-Rod in the pocket and get at least one turnover. So you get a half point there. We forced one turnover. We were able to get the ball out of A.J. Dillon's hands, and Landon Collins was able to recover. But we didn't keep A-Rod in the pocket well enough. Obviously the 4th and 3 on the opening possession stands out. He was able to extend the play out to his right, throw back across his body. It's a tough play to defend. Only a select few of quarterbacks can even make that throw and make it accurately as he did. But it's still, if you keep him in the pocket there, force him to go backwards and retreat instead of going laterally towards the sidelines to extend, maybe you're able to force an incompletion there on 4th down, and that would have been a momentous stop to start the game. Instead, he gets out of the pocket, extends, finds his favorite receiver, Davante Adams, who does the rest, touchdown. And so that was a backbreaker. Rodgers also had a 15-yard run on a 3rd and 8 or 9 where he got away, picked up a 1st down. So we weren't able to keep him in the pocket as well as we would have liked to. He didn't break our backs necessarily from getting outside the pocket, but he did enough damage that it didn't warrant a full point there. So 3.5 points defensively. You total that up with the 3 on the offensive side for a grand total of 6.5 points out of 10. That's one of the highest scores we've received this season. And that's why I felt the way that I felt after the game. We did all of the things we needed to do to give ourselves a chance. All these keys to the game do is give you a chance. They're not going to guarantee you victory. They just give you a chance. And we had a chance. We had multiple chances, and we just didn't take advantage of them. And so that's why I'm optimistic. If we play this way, but we finish off drives, even if it's with a field goal, if we play this way against teams like the Broncos and the Panthers and the Eagles and the Giants, those are winnable football games. Those are teams you can beat with this type of performance. Now, you're going to have to score touchdowns against the Raiders and the Cowboys and teams like that, okay? But if you play like this against Denver, in Tampa Bay, if you want to beat Tampa Bay and Dallas and Vegas, you're going to have to score touchdowns. You're not going to be able to settle for field goals. But even with field goals, if you play this way against Denver, against Philadelphia, against the Giants, okay, against Carolina, against teams like that who are remaining on the schedule, you can win those football games. This was a really quality performance by the football team, whether you want to hear that or not. So we move on to in other news, and Ron Rivera stepped to the podium, or had a presser the day after from his office, as he usually does. And he talked about the Jamin Davis play, so let's talk about that first. He said he'd like to see Jamin Davis get his hands on the tight end there. Don't give him a free release. And then know where your help is. He should have been playing with outside leverage because he had help to the inside. He had post help. So if that tight end runs a post, an 8, then he would have help to the inside. But if he runs a 7, which is a corner, or he runs a bench or an out, there's no help there, which he ran a corner route, a 7 route. And that's why Jamin Davis was so far away, because there's no help, and he was playing with inside leverage. He should have been playing with outside technique. So that's a part of the experience that he gains by playing. And you can't learn this stuff by sitting on the sideline and taking mental notes. You make these mistakes in the game, and then you correct them. You say, okay, I remember what I did wrong here the last time, and I got beat for the touchdown. So the next time, he'll get hands on that defender or that tight end, and then he'll get outside technique, outside leverage, and he'll be able to be underneath that corner route and make Aaron Rodgers turn it down. So he talked about that. Talked about the some of those controversial plays with Heineke. There's nothing you can do about it now. I just hope Heineke learned. And Ron kind of said, look, you'd like to see him just keep his feet there and walk in. He was trying to protect himself. Everyone knows he wasn't giving himself up, but that's the interpretation of the rule. Whatever it is, Heineke's just essentially got to stand up and walk in there. And yeah, that's the answer. Not he wasn't trying to give himself up. This, that, the third. Heineke can't be scared of some contact there at the end. And Ron pretty much said he's got to be willing to take on that contact. There was no contact coming though, but he didn't know. He just out of the peripheral. You see green flash and you're like, hey, let me get down. He could have walked in. I don't think he needed to dive, but that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is it's a lesson learned. Bottom line is a lesson learned. The quarterback sneak was frustrating because I thought it was a touchdown. Ron thought it was a touchdown. The referees, and I knew this, and I actually said this in the MOBBSQUAD. I was adamant. This is a touchdown. He reestablished possession, and then he stretched it over the goal line. Like, this is a touchdown. And I kept saying, this is a touchdown. This is a touchdown. But then, as we came back from commercial break and they were still under the hood, I said, you know what they're going to do to us? They're going to say, we can't tell if his knee is down. So we can't see it because he's in this mass. So we're just going to stick with the call on the field, which is garbage because he wasn't down. And there's no way he was literally in the same position he was when he tried to score the first time. He was in the exact same position. So unless you think he was down when he tried to stretch it the first time and it got jarred loose, then he could not have been down. If you thought he was down then he was down when he tried to stretch it over the second time. But he was standing in the exact same position. How can you assume that he's down now? I don't understand that. That makes zero sense to me, but I knew they were going to stick with the call on the field once I realized how long they were taking. I'm like, okay, they're not going to overturn this. So, Ron was frustrated with that, as he should have been. Ron was also frustrated with the Ricky Seals-Jones no call in the end zone. I didn't have a problem with it, to be honest with you. And it really, Ron said that Taylor should have gotten rid of it a little quicker. Ricky could have done a better job. And I said both of these things. He could have done a better job of boxing that guy out. This is where we missed Logan Thomas. I said this on Overtime. Logan does a great job of using his body as a shield to keep defenders away from the football and using his frame to be able to box guys out and then go get it. Ricky Seals-Jones isn't as adept at doing that. And so Ron said Ricky could have used his body a little bit better and he could have come back to the football to not allow that defender access to knock it away. But in the same breath, Taylor could have gotten it to him quicker before that defender would have had a chance to react. That's what Aaron Rodgers would have done. He would have thrown a quick BB before that defender head is even around. That ball's in there and it's a touchdown. That's in the red zone. You have to be precise. You cannot wait. You have to anticipate. And Taylor Heineke has to learn that. And that's something I've seen from him when we failed in the red zone is that he's too late. He's waiting to see if things come open. You can't wait in the red zone. You've got to let it go. You got to let it go. It's tight quarters. Everything is condensed. You've got to anticipate and say, hey, you're supposed to be here. I'm letting it go, and I'm going to trust that you're going to get there and that the ball will be ready when you come out of your break. He wants to see guys get open, and then that's allowing DBs to knock it away in the end zone. So he talked about those plays, and he talked about Taylor giving us a chance. He's like, look, Taylor played really well. When he plays the way he played in this game, we have a chance. We just got to finish in the red zone, and that's pretty much how I felt. And he talked about the defense and how they played, and they gave us a chance as well. And these are all things that give you hope for the future. And he says just need consistency, and obviously you need to win. That's the biggest thing is you want to see consistency, but you have to get dubs. And now I think the dub portion of the season can begin. If we can start to put together these types of performances consistently, we'll have chances to win on a week in, week out basis, even when we're playing teams that are much better than us, like Tampa out of the bye. But it starts with Denver. If we can't beat Denver, then the competitive portion of the season is over. If we don't beat Denver, the competitive portion of the season is over. At that point now, you're just like, okay, let's see what we have for the future. You go that Mike Shanahan 2012 route. okay, competitive portion of the season's done. Let's see what we have moving forward for the future. Okay, that's where we get to if we can't find a way to beat Denver. So this was an encouraging game for me. You never want to lose. I don't like talking about moral victories. There are no moral victories, but there are positive takeaways. So I think that Ron acknowledged that. They talked about a really positive week of practice. And Ron said, you know, we changed up some things. And Taylor Heinicke said we had a great week of practice. And it showed. But obviously the red zone practice wasn't good enough. So let's get that better. You know what I mean? But all jokes aside, if Terry catches a ball, if Taylor Heinicke doesn't, you know, get down before he gets in, this is a totally different ball game. So, you know, a mistake here, a mistake there, you know, play made here or play made there, and this is a totally different ball game, and we're not having the conversation that we're having right now. So we were close, but close doesn't get it done. You know, and as a wise woman once told me, almost doesn't count, almost doesn't count. So we got to be better, and I think next week we will be better. And last thing Ron really touched on that was of significance, the injury situation. So he talked about a bunch of guys, and I've been really tooting this horn, so to speak, like, hey, we're going to get some guys back from injury. We're so banged up right now. We're going to get guys back from injury, and that's a positive. So if we can just hang in there, and hanging in there means beating Denver, the cavalry will arrive after the bye week. You're going to get Sheriff back. You're going to get Cosme back. You're going to get Curtis Samuel back. You're going to get Logan Thomas back. You're going to get Cam Sims back. Like, these are impactful players that we're talking about. These aren't Joe Schmoes that we're talking about. These are guys that have come back and going to move the needle. Okay? The run game has, I feel like, not suffered, but it hasn't been as dynamic since Sam Cosme's left the lineup. And this is what I said last year about Cornelius Lucas. Cornelius Lucas is fine in the pass game. He's flaccid in the run game. He's okay, but he's flaccid in the run game. Sam Cosme was playing his ass off before he got injured, and he was dogging people in the run game. So I want to see this offensive line get back to full strength. I want to see what we look like as an offense with guys like Logan Thomas and Curtis Samuel back in the fold. And then we can start to assess some things. He talked about Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he said in 2 weeks, he will receive an MRI, and then they'll go from there. So it doesn't sound like he'll be ready after the bye week. That's what that sounds like, because in 2 weeks, we'll be coming off of the bye. So if he's receiving an MRI 2 weeks from now, that would be the Monday that we'll be preparing for Tampa Bay. So in all likelihood, he won't be back, I don't think, until sometime after that Tampa Bay game, if at all, this season. We'll see what happens with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but Heinicke's the man moving forward until otherwise notified. For those of you out there clamoring for Kyle Allen, put a sock in it. Hey, put a sock in it. Taylor Heinicke is the man for the job, and I said that when he got the job. He's the right man for the job right now. I'm not saying moving forward, you know, in the future, but for this team this year, as it's assembled, Taylor Heinicke is the best man for the job. So I hear all of your comments out there. And somebody in the comment section of the overtime video said, a lot of fans are watching this game or watching some of these games, this one in particular, with their feelings instead of their eyes. And I couldn't agree more. Some of you are way too far in your feelings. And I get it. You're tired of losing. I get it. But you also have to keep it real, too. You can be frustrated. You can be upset. But you also have to be realistic. Somebody's like, we need to cut Taylor Heinicke tomorrow. Okay, I'm done with you. Okay, cut Taylor Heinicke? Really? All right, I'm done. So if you felt like Taylor Heinicke was the reason we lost the game yesterday, I would tell you that he was a part of the reason we lost. He wasn't the biggest reason we lost the game. I've told you in past weeks, like the New Orleans game in particular, he was the single biggest reason we lost that game. The Chiefs, the whole entire offense wasn't good against the Chiefs. It wasn't just Taylor Heinicke. Everybody stunk offensively against the Chiefs. There was no silver lining in that cloud. It was a bad offensive performance. This week, Heinicke gave us a chance. The man had 95 yards rushing and 268 passing, okay? The man literally gave us a chance. He just didn't execute his best in the red zone. That's where you got to be your best. He'll continue to grow, he'll continue to evolve, and he'll continue to give this team a chance if he plays the way that he played in this game. This is not that much dissimilar to the way he played against Atlanta. This is not that much dissimilar to the way he played against the Giants. Bring the ball down a little bit and be a little bit more decisive in your decision-making in terms of running, because I thought there were a couple of times he took a sack or two where he could have gotten out of there. Offensive line wasn't as good as it had been in the past. That said, they were serviceable in this football game. So one last thing, and then we'll get out of here. For all of my Mob Squad Gold members, we will squad up this week, okay? So that will be our exclusive monthly meeting, 7 o'clock on Thursday evening. So mark it down in your calendars. Hopefully you can attend. Gold members of the MOBB, we will have our squad up session on Thursday, and I will remind you just about every single day this week leading up to that meeting. Thursday evening, 7 p, we will squad up. Okay? So, with that said, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T here on Washington Football Nightly. I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington football team. It was a valiant effort, and I know some of you don't want to hear that. I didn't anticipate us winning this game. When the schedule came out, this was a loss. Last week was a loss. Unfortunately, you know, we lost those games, but both of them turned out to be winnable games, and we didn't get it done, and that's frustrating, but we weren't where we needed to be from a consistency, from a mental or a physical standpoint. Now we're going to start to get back to where we need to be physically with guys coming back off of injury here shortly, but from a mental standpoint, we're starting to get there. We're not there yet. Hopefully, because it takes a certain level of mental focus to beat teams that are upper echelon like Green Bay, like Tampa Bay, like Buffalo. You can't go in there half-assing it and making mental mistakes and thinking you're going to beat teams like that. You may be able to get away with it against teams like Denver, like Atlanta, like the Giants, not against teams like Green Bay. So we're getting there. We're not quite there, but we're taking steps in the right direction. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. If you haven't already done so, please make sure that you leave a comment down in the comment section of this video. I'd love to hear from you as to what you thought about this game. If you didn't agree with my assessment of Taylor Heinicke and the offense, I'd love to hear about it. Either way, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you guys take care. Have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20.